concepts of fundamental concept of SAP UI5, which was necessary for us, and we saw HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. Now, since we are pro in it, we will move to our second phase of our course, which is SAP UI5 framework. So let's start with the introduction part. What is SAP UI5? In the very first session of our course, we already have discussed the definition of a UI5 framework. What is a SAP UI5 framework? SAP UI5 framework is a collection of libraries, collection of libraries, which is built, which is built on the top of standards like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. Now, if I have to define what is the meaning of a framework, what should be my answer? What is a framework? What is a framework? Framework, framework. So framework is collection of libraries, right? Framework is just a collection of libraries. And like other frameworks of JavaScript, we have SAP UI framework, which is a JavaScript framework built on the top of JavaScript, and it uses the features of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. If I have to define what is a framework, the simple definition of a framework will be framework is just a collection of libraries. Just a collection of libraries. Now, what is a library? If it is a collection of library, what is a library? So library is just collection of classes. Collection of classes. Library is just a collection of classes. And then what is a class? What is a class? Class is a blueprint which contains attributes or properties and methods or behavior. Two important feature for any particular class. Class is a blueprint which contains attributes or properties. Like if I have to define a human class, what will be the property of a human class? The property will be simply like we have two hands, we have two legs, we have a mouth. So these are the properties of a human class. And now if I have to define the behavior of a human class, can I say that a human can walk, human can run, human can speak, human can teach, human can learn? All of these things are the behavior of a human class. So SAP UI5 is a framework. It is a framework, or let's say collection of libraries which is built on the top of these standards and used for designing or developing responsive web applications. This is the definition, applications. So we can use this framework to develop responsive web applications. Framework is a collection of library like any other library inside our society. What we see, the library is just a collection of book where we can go and simply read certain amount of book that we are looking for. The same stuff is here. Library is just a collection of class, and this class are like books which contains some features, and using these features we can access some properties. So class is a blueprint which contains attributes or properties and methods. So where can I learn my SAP UI5 framework? Where can I learn? Another thing. Where can I learn SAP UI5 framework? Or where can I learn SAP UI5? So if you want to learn SAP UI5, you can go to this site https slash SAP UI5 dot HANA dot on demand. Everything is there on HANA dot on demand.com slash hash slash topic. You can go to this site and you will be able to learn it. Just let's copy this particular site and let's go to and let's visit this one. See here. SAP UI5 demo kit, or what you can do is just search here SAP UI5 SDK, same website. Click on it and you will visit this particular site. You can learn everything about SAP UI5 from SAP UI5 SDK, everything, API references, all the buttons and features, all the controls that are there. You can build your applications, every method and classes. You can learn everything here. So there is a prerequisite for learning SAP UI5, and that prerequisite is object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming. What is object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming is based on two things. Based on two things only. The first one is your class, and second one is object. Class is just a blueprint. It is just a blueprint. Let's just write below here. Class is just a blueprint or a template or a template. Another thing. Class is just a blueprint or a template, or you can say class is a logical entity. Logical entity. It do not it do not acquires any space, because it is not a physical quantity. It is just a blueprint. Using this particular classes, using the features of all these classes, we will create object. We will create object for us. Or what is an object? How can we define an object? Object is an instance of a class. So can I say that we are the instance of human class? Definitely, we are the instance of human class. We acquire all the features of a human class. So that is, we are the objects of a human class. The same thing is there. An object is an instance of any class that you can see here. What is a class? Class is just a blueprint or a template. It is just a logical entity and it do not acquires any space. Okay. Then what is it? The feature of a object object can use the properties of a class, properties and behavior of a class. When I say the word behavior, it simply means I am talking about methods. I'm simply talking about methods. And when I say the word properties, it simple means I am talking about, let's say, attribute. This is the concept of object oriented programming. You would have learned this thing in your college also. Like if you have any prior knowledge of any other programming language, object oriented programming is always there in your SAP UI5. In your SAP UI5, one important stuff is there. Everything inside the SAP UI5 is a class. Everything inside the SAP Wi-Fi is a class. Is this thing clear?
Yes.
Okay. Everything inside SAP Wi-Fi is a class. Now let's see it. What are the components of SAP UI5? What are the components of SAP UI5? So what you can see here is there are two components, two components, two components of SAP UI5. The first one is design time component, design time component, and the second one is runtime runtime component. So if this one is design time component, there are a lot of component inside it, also a lot of libraries like let's say sap.ui.core. Every library consists of a lot of classes. So this design time component consists of a lot of libraries. It consists of a lot of libraries. Let me just show it to you. So this design time component consists of a lot of libraries, design time component, runtime component. This design time component, you can see here, we have a lot of libraries, a lot of like sap.ui.core, sap.ui.unified, sap.ui.core.mbc. This dot simply means this is the parent class. Again, you can see this class is inheriting the features of SAP class, and this core class is inheriting the features of UI class. So they are, this is the UI is the UI is the subclass, or you can UI is just the child class of SAP. Core is the child class of UI. Here unified is the child class of UI, and UI is the child class of SAP. MVC is the child class of core. Core is the child class of UI. UI is the child class of SAP. That dot simply means this, that this particular class is just a child class. Child class. This is the parent class. This is the child class, and inheritance feature is being applied here. So we can see a lot of libraries inside the runtime. The first one is sap.ui.core. Another one you are going to see is sap.ui.unified. Another one which you are going to see is sap.ui.core.mvc. Another one, let's say sap.mobile, one of the most popular libraries, sap.mobile, mostly used for controls like buttons and input fields. Very important library. Then we have another library called sap.ui.table for table. Then we have, let's say, sap.ui.layout, used for creating forms, etc. Forms for taking user inputs, etc. Then we have another library, sap.ui.component. Again, another library, eighth one, let's say sap.viz. Another one again, sap.ux for user interfaces. So we are going to see a lot of libraries. I have just written some of the important one which we are going to use. So a lot of libraries are there inside the design time component, which works on the design time. So whenever you run any program, you require a runtime environment, right? We require a runtime environment, and we already know that our JavaScript is the browser's programming language. We can directly run our JavaScript over the browser, so we do not require the running of that particular thing. But the problem here is my is my browser, or let's say question, very important question here, do my browser understand SAP UI5? This is my question. Do my browser understand SAP UI5?
Yes.
No, 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 no. My browser is not going to understand it. My browser will never understand SAP UI5. The problem here is my browser only understands HTML, CSS, na?
Yes.
Whatever the content that you are going to display over there, everything is in HTML. CSS is for the designing part. So for this feature, we requires the runtime component. Inside this runtime component, there is a very important library called renderer. Very important library, renderer. This library, what this library is going to do, whatever code that we will write, the code that we will write inside SAP UI5, it will be directly this renderer will simply convert, or let's say renderer renderer will convert the SAP UI5 code into its equivalent HTML, CSS code. This guy is simply going to convert your SAP UI5 program into its equivalent HTML and CSS code, which will be easily understand by the browser. Which will be easily understand by the browser. Very important component, this runtime component called renderer. This guy is responsible for converting your UI5 code into its equivalent HTML and CSS code so that your program can understand it, so that your program can easily understand your UI5 code. This UI5 code is directly built on the top of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. But again, the question here is, can my browser understand this SAP UI5? No, browser only understand HTML and CSS for displaying purpose. So whatever control that you are going to create, whatever buttons that you are going to create over the browser, over your web page, this renderer component, this runtime component called renderer, it will directly convert your code eh, in the backend part. What this renderer is going to do, it will directly convert your code into its equivalent HTML and CSS code, and then you will be able to see the output. Then you will be able to see the output. Very important library. So this is how your UI5 usually works. Now the question here is how we are going to load. Next topic. How how we are going to load SAP UI5 in our HTML file. How we are going to load it. So to
Using,
understand it, yeah, please tell.
by using script.
Okay, by its script. That's good. So the situation here is, if I directly load all the UI5 framework, just wait for a second, let me show it to you. So what I will do here is now, I will go there and I will create inside it, I will create a folder called, let me just remove these things. New folder, SAP UI5 2024. Now inside this particular folder, let's create another folder also called, let's say fundamentals. Now it is okay. So inside this UI5 folder, I will create a .html file with name index.html. Index.html. I will simply create this file index.html. Now, how do we write a HTML file with HTML syntax?
Step. Type.
Then we will provide the head. and then we provide the body, right? So now how we will load our SAP UI5. How we will load our SAP UI5. So what we will do is we will directly go to this particular SAP UI5 SDK website. We'll go here. Let me just open it again. SDK. Go to the demo kit. Now in the documentation, what you are going to see is just search for bootstrap. Again, very important topic, very important definition. Let me just explain you. Before understanding this, we need to understand a star topic called bootstrapping. Bootstrapping. So my browser directly not, my browser do not understand the UI5 framework. My browser do not understand the Ui5 framework. So if I am going to directly write this code over my HTML, I am not going to get any output. I am not going to get any output. If I will directly write all the Ui5 code here, if I directly create file, my browser is not going to understand. So for this particular region, we have a concept called bootstrapping. Bootstrapping, it is the process of loading all the required libraries and files that are required for the execution of code, UI5 code, let's say. So what we will do at the runtime, we will load our UI5 framework, we will load our UI5 library into our HTML page, so that at the runtime, all the required files will be loaded. Inside it, we have a renderer component. So this guy is directly going to convert my UI5 code into its equivalent HTML CSS code, and then my browser will be able to display it. So bootstrapping is the process of loading all the required libraries and files that are necessary for the execution of any program, let's say UI5 code. So how we are going to load it? I will go to SAP UI5 SDK. In the documentation, I will search for bootstrap. Now what you can see here, in this you can see variant. Just go below it, see here. Variant for bootstrapping from content delivery network. We already know in the previous sessions we have discussed this thing in detail. What is a content delivery network and what is its purpose? So now in this bootstrapping, what I am going to see is I will just go below and you can see I have a script tag, and here I am able to load some file. So I will simply copy it and let's paste it in the head section. Head is my brain. Head is my brain section. My brain can understand everything. My brain is responsible for processing all the logic part, right? My brain is responsible for processing all the logic part. So this is how I am going to load my, uh, wait a second. Yeah, now it is working. With ID, ID has given SAP UI Bootstrap for loading your UI5 framework at the runtime, and this is the link. Just copy this link. Just copy this link and go to this particular link. You are going to see a lot of libraries, a lot of function, a lot of things is there. So is this a smart way to load all the UI5 and all the UI5 libraries directly to your application? Is this a smart way to load all the features directly to the application? Never. We should never. Very important approach here. We should. So how we are going to load it? Our we will load our SAP UI5 framework at the runtime. At the runtime from SAP UI5 SDK. We have got the link through which we will load it. Now the question here is, a very important question here is it a smart way to load all the classes and libraries of SAP UI5 framework? Is it a smart way? No, never, never, never. I mean it, never. See here, we should never load all the SAP UI5 libraries at a time. Because if you are going to load all the libraries of this particular framework, this is a very big framework, it contains of a lot of libraries. If you are going to load everything into your application, the load over your application will increase and the overall performance of your system will decrease. So to reduce this thing, to avoid this feature, what we do is we only load the required libraries. We only load the required libraries. We only load the required libraries that are necessary for us. So we only load those required library. So let's say I want to load a library called SAP.UI, SAP.mobile. I have just explained a few moments ago that SAP.mobile is a very important library which is used for creating buttons and inputs and a lot of stuff. So let's bring that library. How we will bring it? Again, another question. Then the question here is how we will load our required libraries. How we will load them? We use data SAP/UI slash library slash libs for loading libraries. Then let's say we use data hyphen SAP hyphen UI hyphen theme for loading themes. So using this data keyword, using this data SAP UI keyword, you can load all the features of it like libraries, themes, and a lot of things there which we will see in the upcoming sessions. So this is how we are going to load any library. So what I will do, I will give here data SAP data hyphen SAP hyphen UI hyphen library equal to SAP.mobile. Very important library, SAP.mobile. Okay, SAP.mobile. Now let me load a theme also here. So data SAP.UI dot theme. And let's say I want to load a theme called Blue Crystal, SAP underscore Blue Crystal. This is a very popular theme which is there over your uh, SAP Ui5 framework. So I am simply calling it. Now let me check the output. If I will go to my output section, what will be my output? If I will go to my output section, what will be my output? If I will go to my output section, see here, there is no output, completely blank white page. So I have loaded this theme. I have loaded this theme from my UI5 framework. How I can apply it over my web page? The simple answer is whenever we want to display anything, we are required to pass it inside the body tag, right? We are required to pass it inside the body tag. So we have a class inside this theme. We can directly call it. That class is class equal to SAP UI body. Simply call it and you will be seeing this that your background color has been changed to blue color, light blue color, or you can say blue crystal color, whatever you prefer. So this is how we can load this is how we can load any library, themes, anything. And if I am loading any theme, this is how I can use it directly over my all the body page. Now, next topic. The next topic of today is control. What is a control? I am going to use this word a lot of time over this course. Control, or let's say SAP UI5 control. SAP UI5 control. So whenever I'm using this word, just understand it. Control simply means buttons, input fields, etc. Everything that we are going to create over our web page, buttons, input field, and a lot of stuff will be there. Everything is called control. So SAP UI5 control. So how we are going to create a control? First stuff, how we will create it, or say syntax for creating any SAP UI5 control. What is the syntax for creating any SAP UI5 control? The syntax is we use var keyword. Again, var keyword. Var keyword was used for creating JavaScript object. Same stuff is there because this UI5 is your JavaScript library or JavaScript framework. So var keyword is used, then we give the object name. So let's say I'm giving the object name here as varo control. Okay. Then you use the new keyword. New keyword is used for creating any object. New keyword is used for creating any object. Then you provide library name. Library name. Then you provide library name dot your control name. This syntax is very important. We are going to use it again and again over this course. So library name, what is the library that I have imported here? sap.mobile. So here it will become sap.mobile, then the control name that you are calling, and inside it you are going to pass the id, let's say sid, and the id for it, and then properties inside the this one. So inside the curly braces, you are going to pass the properties, value, and so on. Again, if you are passing another properties, value. This is how we are going to create it. And at last, we already know that any JavaScript statement always ends with semicolon. So we will end it after the parenthesis. So in between this parenthesis, we will pass the IDs or properties, whatever we are required. A lot, we can pass multiple properties also if there is, this is the feature of the control. Okay. So let's create a button for us. Let's create a button for us. How we will create it? We will go inside the head and we will go for script tag. Script tag. Inside this script, we will create, let's say, button. Var o button is equal to new sap dot mobile dot button. So I will simply create this button. Okay, I will simply create this button. How we are creating this button? We have var o object, object name, new, then library name is sap.mobile, and this is the control name which is there inside the sap.mobile. Let me just show you. If you want to see it, go for the API reference and check here button is there or not. See here, just close it. See here, this is SAP. Inside this SAP class, we have M class. So sap.m. And now inside it, we can see we have a button. See here, button. So sap.m.button. So sap.m.button. And now you can pass any property. Let's say I want to display a text. So I will use text property inside the this particular curly braces. So text equals to, let's say, my button. My button. This is the text I'm passing here within the script tag. So I have created this UI5 button, but will I be able to see it here? No, Definitely not. Because if you want to see anything, you will have to pass it inside the body tag. You will have to pass it inside the body tag. So how we will pass inside the body tag? How we will pass inside the body tag? The first statement is we will create a space. First, we will define a space over the body using div tag. We will create a div element here, div. We have already discussed for what purpose we use this. This is used for grouping purpose. We will pass here a ID. Let's say ID equal to my name Amrit. So I am passing here a div. I am creating here a div element with this ID called Amrit. And I am not writing any text here. So I am simply creating a empty div element with this ID. Now what I will do here is I will place this button. I will simply place this button over this ID. So I will simply go to this. I will simply go to this script tag and I will place my button object. Dot place at is the method which is used to place your buttons over a particular div element. So you can use here and you can pass it your ID, which is Amrit. Pass it here. Now you will go to this your screen. You can see here we have my button. If you don't like this my button, you can write my name. Let's say Amrit. So this Amrit will be displayed here. If you don't like it, you can pass it here. Let's say Captain America. So now Captain America will be displayed over here. Everything that you are going to write, it will be displayed. So let's say I'm writing here, kindly click me. Now it is good. Kindly click me. If you will compare this particular button with the buttons that we were creating inside the JavaScript, this button will appear more beautiful. That is the feature of your UI5 framework. Everything that you are going to see here, everything will be more crystal clear and it will be more nicer in look, okay, more beautiful in its feature. Then what I want is, let's say I want to create a input field. I want to create a input field over it. I want to create an input field. So how will I create it? I want to create a input field now. Again, we can check here if there is some input. Let's say, let's find it out. Yeah. Inside this SAP.mobile, we have an input class. Everything I have learned from this UI5 framework only. From this particular UI5 SDK website. Everything is there. If you have time, you can go and do all the researches. But for this training course, I am going to explain everything. You are no longer required to waste your time anywhere else. So see here, I've created a button. Now what I want to do is I want to create a input field here. So how I will create? Again, same stuff. We will create a control. So let's say var o input field. I will create a control. So var object name of your control. After that, new keyword. So new and then sap dot mobile dot input. So input is there and then parenthesis. This is how your input is going to create. But will this input appear over my web page? No. Again, I will have to place it at a particular element. So let's create a div element again. Div id equals to, let's say, Amrit 2 again. Now I will place this input field, o input field, o input field dot place at o input field dot place at the place of my id Amrit. This is how I am creating. Now I can see here a input field is appearing. Input field is appearing. So here I can write any text. I got an input field to allow user to enter any data. Any data. So my user can enter any particular data. So just compare this. UI5 element with the HTML elements. Compare your UI5 elements with the HTML elements. What you are going to see? You are going to see that you are going to see that very important note. You are going to see that UI5 elements are very different from HTML elements. UI5 elements are very different from UI5 elements, and we can directly use methods of classes. Here what we are using directly using the methods of classes to create all those things to create all those things easily in SAP UI5. SAP UI5, everything is a class. There we have called methods. Using those methods, we are creating all the control names that we are looking for. I used input, I used for button. So this is how we are going to create our UI5 control. UI5 elements are very, very different from HTML elements. But what you are going to see, just go to the inspect part and see what is happening here. Just see what is happening here. This is my element. This is my HTML page that is being displayed. Now let's enter this body. Let's enter this body. If you will go inside this body, what you are going to see here is, see here, we have got div element called Amrit. We have got this div element Amrit. And for this div, we have this input field. Now, if you'll go inside this div element, just see what is happening here. A button is being created. A button is being created. This is how we create any button in our JavaScript and HTML now. The same stuff is being done. Go inside it. Again, go inside it. If you will go inside this button, you are going to see all the features of the button. Span tag, see here, button, span tag, everything is being used. So what actually is being happening here is your direct SAP UI5 framework, or sorry, direct SAP UI5 code that you have written here, it is being converted into its corresponding HTML elements by the renderer at the runtime. This is how your uh, code is being converted. So everything that you are going to write now, everything you are going to see, it will be converted directly to the HTML elements. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the introduction part of our UI5 framework, and it was very crucial for its understanding. Now some basic object-oriented programming knowledge is necessary, which I have explained, but let me explain some more part also. The part here is object-oriented programming, very important. Everything you are going to see inside your UI5 is either object, class, or a method. Everything is just based on object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming is based on two things only, right? Based on two things. The first one is classes. Classes is there. So classes are just blueprint, blueprint, which is used for creating objects. Another thing is there, objects. What object is going to do? Objects are the instance of the classes. Objects are the instance of the classes. Okay. So it is a blueprint template, or let's say collection of methods and some properties. So the most important feature that is crucial for us is inheritance. Okay, inheritance. Inheritance. Very important feature of object-oriented programming. So inside the inheritance, what you see here is in inheritance. Please mute your mic. A lot of noise is there. So in inheritance, what you see here is there is a parent class. there is a parent class, and then we have a child class. So let's say we have a parent class for a plane. Okay, let's say we have a parent class, we have a class called plane, and we have some other child classes also called passenger plane, passenger plane, and cargo plane. Two classes I am also creating, passenger plane and cargo plane. This is my uh, plane class. So if this is a plane class, there will be some of its properties like height inside it. Let's say create some properties like height and width. Then we have some more it's some behavior, or let's say methods. So methods, let's say fly. My plane can fly. This is a behavior. It can land. So if I have to create any passenger class, or sorry, a passenger plane or a cargo plane, can I simply inherit its feature? Because if this is a plane, it will have its properties called height and width. This is how any car or any four-wheeler is created. First, a parent class is there. Using that parent class, we simply copy its features to this. So this particular class, I will simply copy the feature of plane to this passenger class. I will acquire the feature of this plane to passenger class. So since I have acquired it, now I will have height, width, fly and land. Also, I can give some more extra features inside this parent class now. I can simply give some more extra feature inside this parent class. Let's say number of seats. This was not mandatory for plane, but for passenger class, number of seats is mandatory because passengers are going to sit into it. Then for cargo plane, I will require a cargo space. So for passenger plane, I can simply inherit the feature of this plane class, and I will be able to add some more features also. Same thing I can do here in cargo plane. I will be simply inheriting the features of plane class. I will have a height, width, and I have the behavior fly and land. Also, I can add some more extra features like space, how much space is required for loading all the cargo things. This property is called inheritance. Inheritance, there is a parent class and then we have a child class. And what a child class is going to do? Child class always acquires all the properties of your parent class. So I am acquiring the property of my parents, my father and my mother. Same thing is for everyone. So this is how it is going to work. This is how it is going to work. So a child class acquires the properties of your parent class. This is passenger plane is a child class. It is acquiring the properties of this parent class, which is plane. It is also called as sub base class, and its subclass is this one, or you can simply say parent class and child class. Child class, and this one is parent class. So this is the important concept of object oriented programming that was necessary for us to understand.